So in our culture, effort can have like a bad name to it, almost like a bad flavor. And what has helped me a lot in my understanding of effort is this word receiving. Because effort, even right effort for me, implies a certain amount of doing. Right effort backs it up a little bit. But when I hear that word effort, I'm thinking doing. And for me, doing is almost always too much in my world, in my conditioning. So when I think of right effort as waiting, as receiving, as listening, that puts me in a place of finding that middle path, that middle way of not trying too hard, but yet not completely collapsing either and vegging out. So if I'm listening with my whole being, if I'm receiving, just see what arises for you when you hear those words and you're thinking of effort. What does that feel like to you? Receiving, listening. Yeah. So see, there's still effort involved in listening and receiving. And it depends on our conditioning. This won't work for everyone, right? I'm just sharing what works for me. Is it allows me to not clamp on so hard, not try so hard. Yeah. So Jorge's saying there's also effort in not doing. Lee, what did you want to add to that? Go for it.
For me, I think a decent way to look at it is the difference between hearing and listening. Hearing just happens, and listening is something that's active, and it can be that little bit. Also, like when we encounter something, like when we encounter Mara, or anything that's pulling us away, then there's some effort there, not to just give in to that. Yeah, like if we encounter hate or greed, and we realize that, and that's what's here, then there's some effort involved in dealing with that and getting to know it. Yeah, but the difference between hearing and listening and seeing and looking, I think, is where it's easiest to see effort. And for me, right effort is not just how much effort we put in, but where we put it. Yeah.
And I love Netra's metaphor, like opening an umbrella to the rain, right? There's a certain amount, there's a certain way we can do that, right? If we're in a certain state and we're opening the umbrella and there's all this like tension there, right? We're gonna actually have a much harder time opening up that umbrella. And if we have a certain intention, if there's a certain like settledness in this body, then that opening is going to feel so different. The same action, but it can feel very, very different. And here's one of the ways that that Christina Feldman talks about effort. Christina Feldman is one of the founding members of the Gaia House in England, which is the equivalent of our Insight Meditation Society here in the States. And she's of that same generation. She often teaches at IMS, at least before COVID. And she was one of the first teachers I sat with actually at the Insight Meditation Society. So she has a place in my heart. So she says, it takes effort for all of us to get up in the morning, to bring things we dream of to fulfillment. It takes perseverance. It takes effort for you to come to the meditation and to actually engage with meditation, to take one step after another in walking meditation when inwardly there can be countless voices encouraging you to flee and to be elsewhere. This too takes effort. It takes effort to sit with ourselves in stillness during times that are not always easy, just like Lee was saying. When part of us knows there's countless other things, more gratifying things that we could be doing in that moment. We can look at all the journeys we make in our life, and the pervading theme in all those journeys is they ask for effort. And meditation is hard. I think it's hard. I think it's hard to set that intention, to see clearly, to want to see what is in this mind. That takes effort. And here's where the subtleties are, right? If I push so hard to see clearly, then that strain is actually going to work against me. So we're always like playing with what kind of effort is going to allow me to be in this path in a way that is nourishing, that's healthy. I'm going to read this poem that I saw just this morning. And it might not have anything to do with this, but it was just so beautiful. It's called An Evening Walk When Spring is Already Old. And it's by Jason Allen Passant. On the 3rd of June, so just yesterday, right? No, 2 days ago, on the 3rd of June, I re-entered the woods. The trees' souls have bloomed into canopies. There is volume, not just skeletons. Breeze passes into the placenta of this womb. There is hiding place in the trees, and the birds sing differently. The leaves have become a sea in my body. Actually, I think it has a lot to do with Samadhi, with this idea in the sit of, can I be here for just this moment? A moment, right? When he's saying in this poem, there is volume, not just skeletons, right? Any one of those lines, it's almost as if he is breathing in the entirety of that one moment. And our conditioning can tell us that we need to do so much more. And yet if we can keep simplifying and simplifying and simplifying and just allow us to be in this one moment, I think that's so powerful. For me, it's so powerful. And in that, I think that's how then mindfulness and concentration really connect with each other. Bhikkhu Analayo, he speaks about the difference between mindfulness and concentration in this. Mindfulness being inclusive, as like almost stepping back, and I'm taking in this whole forest, sort of like how the poet was talking about. He's like looking at this whole forest, and he's seeing it all. And so Bhikkhu Analayo talks about it as mindfulness is having a wide angle lens. Let me take in the sensations, let me take in the breath, let me take in the sounds, this wide angle lens. Sometimes I think of it as standing on a balcony and looking down at the stage, and I've got a little bit of distance. And then what he talks about with concentration is that it is like a zoom lens. So we're setting up the system with this wide angle lens. And we're kind of like taking it all in, moment by moment. Here it is. And as we do that, we can slowly, and it's not like we're making it happen. It happens because of the type of effort we're putting in, because we're receiving the information, we're soaking it in. And then as that happens, this lens gets like a zoom lens, and there is a collectedness, like an up closeness, an investigation that happens, like what was happening for Donna in this experience of, whoa, this head feels pretty large right now. It's very powerful. It was like so palpable for her. And so the awareness is like pulled into something to see all the intricacies. But it's not our mind doing it. It's not us making it happen. It's like we've planted these seeds, right? So we orient, we receive, we look at it from afar, we take it in moment by moment, and by the grace, right? By grace, we have these moments of this concentration where we're really investigating and being with something in a very full way. And so everything else in that moment might not exist except for this one thing. The Buddha, the way he talks about it, let me see if I can find it where I put it. He said, here it is. Is it that? Here it is. The Buddha said, faith is the seed, practice is the rain, and wisdom is my yoke and plow. Mindfulness is my plowshare and goad. Faith is the seed, practice the rain, wisdom my yoke and plow, mindfulness my plowshare and goad.